Had light off, I think, because it's a rough one. We're live though. Yay for YouTube live. Okay, let's see. All right, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Let's see who is able to join us. This is Coffee with Colleen and Trixie. I gotta get my coffee. Got my Trixie. All right, here we go. Let's see. Let's flip those up so we don't get the glare. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. I am always coming on in the morning to talk about this third act, solo aging, grief and loss, widow, making money on your own terms. I think the more we're able to have these conversations, the better. I don't know, what should we talk about this morning? I think I want to talk about this idea of just change in general, and sometimes how hard it is to navigate. So I'm Colleen, I'm 57, and I am starting over. In the last 7 years, I've lost everybody and everything in my life, and find myself kind of really with a blank slate, literally, not in a good way, but the universe has kind of taken a kind of scorched earth policy to my life, and I'm starting over. So I'm widowed, I'm child free by choice. I've lost my only sibling, lost my mother, so I've no family left. And the vision I had for myself of, growing old with my husband, obviously is gone, and my life has been flipped upside down. So now that maybe the dust has settled a little bit, I am here, and I'm really just here talking about how I'm navigating this kind of do-over, navigating this rebuild, so to speak, in my life. And I'm discovering there's so many parts to it. I mean, there's a lot of parts anyhow coming into our third act, that I like to call it. I read a book by Jane Fonda who talked about the 3 acts, and so that really resonated with me. So I often talk about this third act, and so the way I define the acts are: Act 1 is childhood, youth. Act 2 is the adulting. You do all the societal things you're supposed to do, the picket fence, the 2.5 kids, the station wagon, the job, all the things, right? And then we get to this third act, and I think this is actually our first time, our first opportunity to really get to build the life that we want and be who we were really meant to be. So that's how I define the third act. And the thing is, our third act is such a long one. I mean, in 2025, it is a long one. Statistically, we're going a long, long time. And there's a lot to navigate. And when you add on top of it other things, widow, loss, grief, things like that, it's very disorienting and a little jarring. And hey, thanks for joining me this morning. We are live on YouTube. I am not vegan. But it's a long one. And so there's a lot to navigate. Whether or not you've had a lot of loss, there's a lot to navigate coming into this third act. And that's what I'm talking about here. I am approaching this third act as like a big experiment. Kind of like, third act field notes. I don't know. It's an experiment. And I am, working on things like mindset, how to make money on my terms. I'm an online entrepreneur. How you find peace and contentment, how you find your sense of purpose, which is a word I hate. I talk about that a lot. That's such a heavy word. But what do we do at this time? I'm 57, and statistically, I have another, 30, 40 years ahead of me, probably 30 good years. What do you do with all that time, right? What do you do with all that time? I think it's the more we can talk about it, the more we can. Okay, Jason, sorry, I removed you. Yeah, wrong person. Okay. The more we can talk about it, the more we can put our heads together. and just how to do this. So I'm new at this. I'm new at this. I'm new at this. Okay. Mm-mm-mm. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm learning how to do this now. Okay. I'm learning how to do this. But I think the more we can talk about this whole third act thing, the more we can put our heads together because we're all kind of navigating the same thing. And the truth of the matter is, there's no script for this third act because we're amongst the first generations to get this longevity. So it's daunting. There's no script or guide. But it's also like this great, I mean, think about this great opportunity to get this chance to live this whole next life ahead of us, except you're coming into it with so much smarts and wisdom, right? So it's really, you're not naive like a child anymore. You know yourself really well. You all the things. I don't know. So we get this chance to come in here really, really smart. Hi, Barbara. Good morning. This is Coffee with Colleen and Trixie. Trixie is my dachshund who's sleeping here. And we're talking about this third act, navigating this third act. I personally am starting over. I'm 57, and in the last 7 years, I've lost really everybody and everything in my life. Lost a career. I was laid off at 50. I became a caregiver for my husband for a year. He died. I had a very big health crisis myself, lost my mother, lost my sister, lost two best friends, lost finances, starting over. And so I'm in this really unique position. I feel like a baby sometimes, like just starting life, but I'm 57. So I don't have the naivete around it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But what I'm always talking about is I'm approaching this now that the dust has settled a bit. This third act as a big experiment, right? Because I really do think this third act is our first chance to get to be who we were always meant to be and live really. I'm not somebody that's cheesy, like authentically to who we really are and to uncover who the heck that is, and then go build that life, right? Um, without all the societal expectations and family expectations and all the things, right? So I just I think it's such a great opportunity. I think we get to figure out who we really are, and then we get to go figure out how do we put that into how do we live that life now? How do we live that life now? And it's not it's definitely not easy. It's definitely not easy. And I find myself, one of my biggest, I mean, I have a lot of grief and whatnot, but the biggest challenges I have found is letting go of what was supposed to be, the vision. You can make some tea. Um, Letting go of what was supposed to be. My husband and I, we were supposed to grow old together and all the things. And then that has flipped upside down. So now I find myself solo aging and really navigating the world in a very different way. Uh, so I'm treating it as a big experiment. And the first thing I think we have to do is kind of sit down and really kind of evaluate, like, who the heck am I now? Who the heck am I now? I have to say, I was married for I was with my husband for 29 years when he died. And the realization that our identity is so tied up in our relationships that when those relationships are gone, it's a very strange place to be. Barbara says, my mother is gone, and so is my father and siblings. I'm so sorry. It's a strange place, isn't it, to be kind of without your family? It's interesting when that dynamic is gone, and losing siblings is next level. I'll say that every time. I lost my sister 3 years ago here in just a couple days to colon cancer. And that has devastated me far more than losing my husband, which I know sounds strange, but it's just next level. It's just different losing a sibling. I don't know. I think it's because they know the truth. They know the origin. They know the childhood, things that a spouse or partner can't know. Your spouse or partner knows what tell them or whatever, but the sibling knows. And anyhow, it's definitely next level. So I'm sorry for that. But what I've realized is, oh, brain tumors, the disease is just awful. It's awful. Oh, thank you for the likes. So I don't know. The biggest challenge for me has this been idea of how tied our identities are to other things, as opposed to like an internal measure, if that makes sense. So after losing my husband, it's very strange that I'm not a wife anymore. And I was a wife for almost 30 years. So that identity is gone. Now I'm single. I hate the word single. I'm like, I'm not single, but I'm single. When I was laid off from my job in 2017 at 50, I didn't have the identity of my business card anymore. I can't say, "Hey, I'm Colleen. I blah blah blah." It's very strange. So I think coming into this third act, whether or not you've had a lot of loss, we are kind of coming into this point where we're building a new, not building a new, we're really uncovering our individual identity just as we are now. And it's been so fascinating to me to realize that I'm 57 years old and I have no idea who I am, what I like to do, what I'm good at. And that has been like the first order of business, I would say, is who am I? Who am I? I don't even know who I am. And letting that kind of slowly emerge. I think that another really strange thing is the sensation that we're all really alone in this world. Uh, and we always were, by the way. We always were. I mean, there's that saying now from Mel Robbins, nobody's coming to save you. I mean, everybody says it, but of late she has said that. And they never were. And they never were. So anyhow, one of the things I'm doing, what I am doing is I'm approaching the third act like an experiment. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. I'm going to see what sticks, see where it takes me. And that's how I'm approaching it. I am a online entrepreneur. After I was laid off, I learned how to have an online business, and that's what I do now. So that's kind of my steady thread, I would say. But other than that, I am really navigating, what do I even like to do? So for example, this year, 2025, coming into 2025, I'm like, I am bored with myself. I'm bored with my life. I'm in a rut. I feel like I've just become like boring, and I don't know. I wasn't doing anything new. Granted, I was, coming out of a lot of grief and whatnot, but I came into 2025 with the idea of I'm going to embark on some, what I'm calling micro adventures. Micro adventures are micro. They are very low commitment, low stakes. So I'm not talking about going and running a marathon or going to climb Mount Everest. We're talking about very low commitment, low stakes. But the criteria that I put for myself was it needs to be something I've never done, and or someplace I've never been, because the goal is just to have new experiences as a way of figuring out, like, is this even something of interest to me? Because I don't know. I'm figuring it out. So I did go on my first micro adventure. I went geocaching, which was a ton of fun. And it was at a local park. So it was like a Saturday afternoon, like 3-4 hours. And it was fun. And it's been it's just me opening myself up to new possibility. It's me getting out of my comfort zone and kind of practicing that muscle. and giving myself permission just to go try things almost like a kid would. You know what I mean? Like, when you're a kid and they play and they just go try different things. That's what I'm doing in this third act. That's what I'm doing in this third act is what what is even out there, what's possible. Because I feel like I was really in a rut. So I went geocaching, which was a ton of fun. And uh, I still talk about it. It was like maybe a month or so ago. And I still talk about it. So, and my next one, I'm doing archery, and I'm going to learn CPR next week. So I'm just giving myself permission to go try things because people ask me all of the time, how do you move forward after so much loss? How do you rebuild after so much loss? And the truth is, there's a couple of things in order to move forward. And I talk about this a lot. The first thing is you need to give yourself permission to make potentially bad decisions. And by that, I mean, we often get so stuck in the, analysis paralysis, the decision paralysis. What if I make a bad decision? What if I make a wrong move? The woulda, coulda, shouldas, right? And what happens then is we wind up making no decision. We just get stuck in this loop of overthinking rather than doing. And the truth is, the way to move forward is you're going to have to try things out. And in order to try things out, you have to give yourself permission to do it. And with the understanding that it may not be all that you hoped for. It may not be all that you hoped for, right? And then if you do something that didn't work out as anticipated, of course, you need to be able to let yourself pivot and try something different, because the only way forward is just to try a little bit of this, try a little bit of that, and see what sticks, see what works. And so we have to give ourselves permission to make potentially bad decisions. Now, you can mitigate that. Obviously, you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to do something crazy big that is risky or whatever, but we do need to give ourselves permission to try things without shaming ourselves if it doesn't work out. Oh, that was a bad decision. We can't do that. And so part of these like micro adventures that I'm doing, it's really just like, I'm going to go try it and see. It's something new that I've never done. We're going to see, right? And even if I go do the thing and I'm like, oh, I didn't like that at all, it doesn't matter. It was a couple hours on a Tuesday night or something, right? It's not risky, but the reward is potentially great. Just flexing that muscle, getting out of your box and just doing something new is exciting. It's a dopamine hit. It's a new point of connection. It's a new experience. You learn something new. So the upside is huge. So moving forward, you have to give yourself permission to make a potentially bad decision. Another thing I think it's really important for us to keep in mind is we have to let ourselves be beginners. And that's hard at our age, right? We kind of get to an age where like, I shouldn't be a beginner anymore, but we are, right? And so you need to give yourself permission just to be awkward and maybe potentially, bad at something, very amateur at something without judgment, because that's just how life is. None of us get to start at the end, right? None of us get to start at the end. Oh, I love that coffee. I love it. I love it. I love it. None of us get to start at the end. And it's always going to take practice, but we need to let ourselves be a kid again. I'm always amazed, like, I don't have children, but watching children, how they just jump into things like without a care in the world. They're not worried about what other people think. They're not worried about all of that. So I think those are two big things. Give yourself permission to make potentially bad decisions. Give yourself permission to be a beginner. And I would say another really big component of this is mindset, which I know everybody talks about mindset, but the truth is, I know for myself and other people I talk to coming into this age, there seems to be like this dip in confidence. Like our confidence gets eroded at some point, and we become very much less confident or brave, and we need to rebuild that. Like we need to kind of restock the confidence coffers coming into this third act, so that we can be comfortable enough to get out of our comfort zone. And so I think a lot of it is, it's a perfect storm coming into this third act. There's, we're aging. Society devalues women as we age. We become invisible. So there's ageism, sexism, all the patriarchy stuff, right? And it's a big transition. So much is happening, menopause, things in our body just start breaking. We start losing people. There's a lot of loss and grief, all the things. So I think any massive change like that or transition causes like this dip in confidence. We just kind of start to question everything, and we start to get a little bit more cautious, and we need to rebuild that. We need to rebuild that. And we need to find a way to bust out of the, imposter syndrome. In fact, I'm a guest on a summit later this week, and my goal is to talk about imposter syndrome. And the host says, I want you to talk about imposter syndrome and how to overcome it. And my answer is, you don't. You learn to bring it alongside you. That's like a basic human emotion. That maybe you're not good enough, that maybe you don't belong, that maybe this isn't for you, that people are going to see you, you're going to feel very exposed or seen. It's a very just natural human emotion. So I think the sooner we can realize that we don't get rid of it, we bring it alongside, that gives us more avenues to try. Like, okay, I'm not going to overcome it. So how do I bring it alongside? How can I approach new activities? Maybe feeling a little bit safer or secure, even though I'm feeling a little shaky. How do I do that? So I think that's a really big part of coming into this third act, is the mindset, the confidence, the kind of getting past the limiting beliefs, all the fancy words we hear these days. But it's true, because this third act, it's like the first chance you get to go really be you. So we don't want things like that holding us back, because to me, there's nothing worse than wanting to do something, like really wanting, like from deep down, wanting to do something, and then not doing it because of confidence or mindset or whatever. And then like later you regret it. The shoulda, woulda, coulda. Oh, I should have done that. And it's such a disappointing feeling. And what I always tell like clients is mindset, like trying something new, imposter syndrome, being a beginner at something, doing something for the first time, you'll potentially suck. But the embarrassment of that is very temporary, right? Because it's also a huge confidence boost. I did something new. I tried it. I did it. I'm still here. It's all good. So the confidence boost comes immediately. The embarrassment really doesn't last. But if you know you want to do the thing and you don't do it because of lack of confidence, that's regret. And that will eat you alive. That eats you alive. That's, yeah, that's the real kicker. That's the real kicker. So anyhow, but that's what I'm doing here. I'm Colleen again. I'm 57. I'm starting over, and I'm just I'm experimenting things. But my personal situation is I'm completely familyless. I'm solo aging. I'm widowed. I'm starting over. I have my own online business, and I'm just figuring this out myself alongside of you. And I'm doing it. I'm just trying to be open to, let's try a little bit of this. Let's try a little bit of that. And I think the first order of business for me has been, I have to open my mind up to new possibilities, to go try things I never imagined trying, and see how it sticks, see how it works. I think we get very in our lives, especially the older we get. We get in a rut, like we have a history, we have an experience, and we often, that can forge really deep ruts, and we need to get out of it because interesting things are outside of our bubble. So we need to figure that out. But thank you for joining me this morning. I appreciate it. I'm figuring out this YouTube live thing, but I appreciate you all, the folks that joined in. Here most every morning about 7 a.m. Central Time, talking about this whole third act, this post midlife phase. So thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. And I will see you again tomorrow. All right. Cheers.